So this lecture is going to cover what it means to say something is a predictor of reading success or a predictor of reading problems. And we talked about some of this in class a little bit, but I just need to make sure that we really cover this clearly and that you understand these things. So we can't do experiments where we withhold all sorts of important factors in reading growth from kids and then check whether or not they fail. So what we do to look for reading predictors is that we think about what we typically see in third grade, which is that in third grade you typically see some people who are doing well with reading and some people who are not doing well with reading. And then we also know through much of the research in reading that there are a lot of factors that people have found are important in establishing early reading, first grade reading, kindergarten reading, second grade reading, that those lead to success at those grade levels. And that, these are just like little research studies that have been done over the years to identify these factors. What they wanted to do is just see large scale, if we just checked all of those factors early on in kindergarten, first grade, even in preschool for some of them. And then we looked at the reading scores in third grade. Could we then backtrack and say, okay, look, that factor really did end up showing who was going to be successful in third grade, and the people who didn't have that factor, it correlated really positively to people who didn't do well in third grade. So as I mentioned in class, there's a whole list of these things that have been found to be potential predictors through statistical modeling. One of these is phoneme awareness, which is just, can you hear the sounds that are in individual words? So if I say the word big, do I hear the sounds b, I, g, and can separate them like that? Or do I just hear one big whole word in my mind, big, and I can't separate those sounds out? So this is something that might have been tested in kindergarten, and then they take the test scores that they get for those and hold on to them until the end of third grade. And then when they get those reading achievement scores from third grade, they take the kids who scored high on third grade reading achievement and go back and check and match all of their phoneme awareness scores with them to see if high scores in phoneme awareness match up with high scores in third grade reading achievement. And did low scores in phoneme awareness back in kindergarten match up with low scores in third grade? So for something to be a predictor, it has to look right. So I've got all of the results for each of the kids here. So if we just take the average of phoneme awareness, and my blue dots represent my third grade kids with high reading scores, my red dots represent third grade kids with low reading scores. What you should be able to see here is that most of the blue dots are over on this side of the average phoneme awareness score. So the very average center phoneme awareness score is right here in the center, and most of the third grade high reading scores are on this side. Some of them are over here for sure, but most of the low reading scores are over on this side of the average. Some of them are over here, yes, for sure. So another way of redrawing this is to say, oh, wait a minute, if I just drew a graph for the kids who got low reading scores based on what their phoneme awareness score was way back in kindergarten, I would get two different graphs. So the average phoneme awareness score for my kids who had low reading scores later on in third grade, it was lower. So way back in kindergarten, most of my kids were having these low reading scores who then later got low phoneme awareness scores who later got low reading scores in third grade. And most of the kids who had high reading scores in third grade had higher reading scores, and the averages are clearly different for those two. And that's where the statistics comes into it, is that these two averages, they have to show through statistical modeling, through math, that the difference between these two averages isn't just due to chance. So they do statistical modeling to check these correlations and see if these averages, these differences, really are significant. And when I say significant in statistics, that doesn't mean it's important. It means that it's not by chance that The correlation shows up mathematically in a way that is believable to say, okay, the difference between this average and this average is probably not just by accident. So if they arrive at that and find that the difference is not by accident, then they'll come out with some confidence and say, it looks like phoneme awareness is a significant predictor of third grade reading achievement, which is to say that if you get kids to do well at phoneme awareness, then your third grade results are going to be most likely higher. Will that be true for every single one of the kids? No, you can see that the dots are kind of all over, like there's some red dots over here, some blue dots over here. But in general, it's going to be a good idea for you to teach phoneme awareness to kids in kindergarten, preschool, and first grade, because the kids who have that knowledge tend to be the kids who are succeeding. The problem with this logic is that you assume that this factor causes this factor, and a predictor is not always a cause because we can't go back in time and construct a cause. It's just a good hypothesis about a cause. So later, you need to go back and check the kids who I gave instruction to and they got phoneme awareness because I taught it to them. Do they actually do better in third grade reading? So that's what is happening in the country right now, is there's a lot of instruction going on in phoneme awareness and a lot of checking to see if that instruction is resulting in third grade reading achievement. And interestingly, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So this single factor or predictor of reading success or reading problems doesn't tell the whole story. There's a whole raft of these factors that come into reading. But because of the studies that have been done on some of these predictors, we as teachers do not just let this one go. We bring it into our instructional routine, and especially for kids who are showing other signs of possibly not succeeding with reading, we want to make sure that this is one of the things that's not getting in the way, and anything else that has been identified as a predictor. So as I mentioned in class, many of these predictors of reading success and problems end up being oral language related. So phoneme awareness, that's about can you hear the sounds in words in spoken language and pull apart words. But as we talked about before, your vocabulary, your number of word meanings that you have, the strength of your conversation, and that type of thing, all of these end up contributing to reading success as well. So we want to know what those predictors are. And if we know what those predictors are, we want to make sure they're part of the curriculum in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, so that by the time kids get to third grade, we're sure that they've had a fair chance at all of the success factors for early reading achievement. All right, I'll stop there.